There was another very dramatic day in a New York courtroom as Trump accuser E. Jean Carroll took the stand for a second day. Her allegation that Trump raped her back in the 1990s.
E. Jean Carroll grilled on her allegations that Donald Trump raped her in a department store in the 1990s.
Trump just made a mistake in court that destroyed his entire defense, and there's video evidence he can't make disappear. During cross-examination, the attorney showed him a photograph from the 1990s and asked him to identify who's in it. And Trump looked at it and said, "That's my ex-wife," except it wasn't his ex-wife, it was Eugene Carroll, the woman accusing him, the woman he's been saying for months isn't his type, who he claims he doesn't even remember meeting, and the jury saw this happen live. But real quick, before we get into this, let's be honest, you can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built National Brief Network to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, please subscribe because you might think you are but aren't. Your subscription actually matters here. All right, let's get into why this is such a crisis for Trump, because that photograph moment completely torpedoed his credibility in ways his lawyers can't fix. Think about what just happened here. Trump's entire defense strategy was built on saying this woman wasn't attractive enough for him to have done what she accused him of. That's already a disgusting defense to begin with. But then you literally can't tell the difference between her and someone you were actually married to for years. And here's what makes this devastating. The attorney didn't even need to comment on it. Didn't need to point out how badly Trump just screwed up. Just moved calmly to the next question while Trump sat there realizing he torpedoed his own case with his own words. And you could see it on his face in the courtroom. That moment when he understood he made a massive mistake and there's absolutely no way to take it back because it's on the official record now, preserved on video. Available for anyone to watch and verify. Share this video with everyone you know because this isn't something Trump's lawyers can spin away later. This isn't the media misquoting him or taking him out of context. There's literal video of Trump looking at a photo and identifying the wrong person in a way that destroys his entire defense strategy. His whole argument was, she's not my type, I would never have been interested in her. But then you confuse her with someone you married? How does that work exactly? And that photograph disaster wasn't even the worst part of his testimony. The worst part was watching Trump completely lose control of himself when the judge kept cutting him off for violating basic courtroom rules that every witness has to follow. Trump took the stand thinking he could turn his testimony into a campaign rally, thinking he could give speeches instead of answering questions, and the judge had to tell him over and over, just answer what you're being asked. Don't editorialize, don't make campaign statements, follow the same rules everyone else follows. Think about what that means. Trump literally could not do it. Could not control himself enough to answer simple yes or no questions without launching into rants about witch hunts and persecution. The attorney would ask something straightforward, and Trump would try to talk over him. Try to turn it into a speech about how unfair everything is. And the judge kept shutting him down. Kept telling him, that's not how this works. You don't get to make speeches, you answer the question asked, and nothing more. And here's where it gets really bad for Trump. At one point, the judge said directly to him in open court where everyone could hear, "You can't control yourself." Just stated it as a fact. A federal judge telling a guy who wants to be president again that he lacks basic self-control. Let that sink in for a second. This is someone who claims he can handle tough negotiations with foreign leaders, who says he's the only one who can manage international crises. And a judge is publicly telling him he can't even control himself during simple courtroom testimony. Make sure you're subscribed to National Brief Network because what happened next shows exactly why Trump's lawyers were probably having panic attacks. The attorney moved to questions about Trump's business dealings, about documents that show things Trump has publicly denied, about financial records that contradict his previous statements under oath. And Trump had two choices here: either admit he lied before, which destroys his credibility with the jury, or lie now under oath, which could get him criminally charged with perjury. And you could see Trump calculating in real time which option was worse for him. He started stammering, started hesitating, started trying to figure out how to answer without incriminating himself on either end. And the more he hesitated, the worse it looked to everyone watching. Because innocent people with nothing to hide don't struggle this much with simple factual questions about their own business dealings and their own statements. So Trump tried a third option that somehow managed to be even worse. He just refused to answer directly. Started giving vague responses that didn't actually address what was being asked. Started saying he doesn't recall things he obviously should remember if his version of events is actually true. And every single time he did this, he was basically admitting to the jury that he can't defend his previous statements when he's under oath and facing real consequences for lying. Think about what that means. The attorney kept asking about specific conversations Trump had, people he met with, decisions he made regarding payments and agreements. And Trump's answers kept changing from what he said in his deposition months earlier. So now the attorney could point out these contradictions right there in front of the jury, could show how Trump's story isn't consistent from one testimony to another, how he's making things up as he goes, depending on what's most convenient at that particular moment. And Trump got more and more frustrated because he couldn't bully his way through this the way he does at rallies or on Fox News. He couldn't just talk louder and make the uncomfortable questions disappear. The attorney just kept calmly asking the next question, kept pointing out the next contradiction, kept building this case piece by piece that Trump isn't credible and his testimony can't be trusted by anyone who's actually paying attention to the facts. Here's what makes all of this absolutely devastating for Trump going forward. Everything that happened in that courtroom is preserved permanently in official court records. There's video of Trump identifying the wrong person in that photograph. There's transcript of the judge telling him he can't control himself. There's a complete record of every contradiction, every evasion, every single moment where Trump proved he can't tell a consistent story when he's under oath, and people are actually fact-checking his claims in real time. And all of that evidence can be used against him in multiple ways. In future trials when he faces other charges and prosecutors want to show his pattern of lying under oath. In political campaigns when Democrats want to show voters what Trump is really like when he doesn't control the narrative. In ads that are definitely already being cut right now to demonstrate how Trump falls apart when he can't just lie without documentation and cross-examination. Think about what that means for Trump's tough guy image. You think that survives when voters see him getting shut down by judges and caught in obvious lies by lawyers? When they see him literally unable to identify people correctly in photographs that are critical to his own defense? When they watch him stammering and hesitating and refusing to give straight answers to basic questions about his own business dealings? Now here's where this connects to everything else Trump is facing legally and why this pattern matters so much. Because this total meltdown in court isn't new behavior from Trump. This is exactly what happened in the Eugene Carroll trials where he got held liable and had to pay millions in damages. This is what happened in the hush money criminal case where Judge Merchan held him in contempt 10 separate times for violating gag orders that prohibited him from attacking witnesses and jurors on social media. Every single time Trump faces actual legal accountability where he can't just lie without documentation and fact-checking, he completely melts down in predictable ways. He attacks people he's not supposed to attack even when judges explicitly tell him not to. He violates rules that are clearly explained to him multiple times. He says things that actively damage his own case because he literally cannot resist fighting back, even when fighting back hurts his legal position. And this matters enormously for understanding what Trump is really like under pressure in situations he doesn't control. At rallies, he's totally in control of everything. He can say whatever he wants without anyone fact-checking him in real time. People cheer for everything. There are no consequences for lying or making things up or attacking anyone he doesn't like. But in courtroom settings where there are actual rules and authority figures who won't be intimidated by his bluster and his wealth and his status, Trump completely falls apart every single time without exception. Think about what that means for international negotiations if Trump is president again, for congressional testimony where he might have to answer questions under oath about his conduct, for any situation where Trump faces real pushback and actual consequences for his behavior instead of just friendly audiences. Based on his repeated courtroom disasters that are all documented, Trump would violate diplomatic protocols. He'd attack foreign leaders during sensitive negotiations. He'd refuse to follow established procedures that exist for good reasons. He'd create chaos and damage because that's exactly what he does, anytime he can't fully dominate the situation through intimidation. And voters need to see this contrast clearly, between rally Trump, who acts invincible and untouchable, and courtroom Trump, who gets told by federal judges that he can't control himself. Between Trump's constant claims that he always wins at everything and the reality that juries keep ruling against him and finding him liable for things he claims never happened. Between his carefully constructed tough guy image and the fact that he completely crumbles when facing actual authority that won't back down or be intimidated. The political damage from this courtroom performance is going to be massive heading into any election cycle. Republicans are going to have to defend someone whose own testimony destroyed his credibility in front of a jury that was paying attention, who got repeatedly called out by a judge for lacking basic self-control, who couldn't even identify people correctly in photographs that were absolutely central to his entire defense strategy. Share this with everyone because Democratic ads basically write themselves at this point. Show the actual footage of Trump's courtroom meltdown. Show the judge's warnings about his behavior. Show the contradictions in his testimony laid out one after another. And then ask voters directly if this is really the person they want representing America in high-stakes situations that require discipline and honesty and the ability to follow basic rules. And Republicans in competitive districts are going to struggle hard with defending this. Because defending Trump's courtroom behavior means defending conduct that most voters find completely unacceptable regardless of their political affiliation, getting held in contempt repeatedly, attacking judges and their families on social media, lying under oath and getting caught in those lies through documentation, violating courtroom rules over and over despite being explicitly warned by judges. That's not the behavior of someone who respects the rule of law or believes in equal justice. That's someone who genuinely believes rules don't apply to them. And voters notice that kind of thing even if they're not following every legal detail of every case Trump faces. Think about what that means. Here's the bottom line and why this matters so much going forward. Trump walked into that courtroom thinking he could control the narrative the way he controls everything else in his life, through intimidation and bluster and just talking louder than everyone else until people give up. And he walked out having proven beyond any doubt that when he faces real accountability, when he's under oath and can't just make things up without documentation, when judges enforce rules that he actually has to follow, Trump completely self-destructs in ways that damage his own interests. He makes admissions that hurt his case. He gets caught in contradictions that destroy his credibility with juries. He violates rules and gets sanctioned by judges who aren't impressed by his status. He proves over and over that his tough guy image only works in settings where he controls the microphone and faces no real pushback from people with actual authority over him, and all of that is now preserved in court records and video footage that will be used against him for years to come, in future trials when prosecutors want to show his pattern of lying under oath, in political campaigns when opponents want to demonstrate what he's really like under pressure, in history books analyzing his presidency and his legal troubles. Trump can't make any of this go away with Truth Social posts or rally speeches or attacks on judges. It happened in open court, it's documented, it's permanent, it's available for anyone to verify. Make sure you're subscribed to National Brief Network because the implications for Trump's legal exposure going forward are absolutely enormous. Prosecutors now know with complete certainty that if they can get Trump under oath, if they can cross-examine him about his conduct as president or his business dealings or anything else he's lied about publicly, he's going to help build the case against himself through his own inability to control his testimony and follow basic courtroom rules that everyone else manages to follow. This story is far from over. Trump faces more legal battles ahead, more opportunities to testify under oath, more chances to either tell the truth or commit perjury trying to maintain his lies and his version of events that contradict documentation. And based on what we just saw in this courtroom disaster, every single one of those future courtroom appearances is going to be an absolute catastrophe for him and his legal team. This story continues. Stay tuned.